of defense mechanisms. There are always, we have found 4 different layers of coping reactions, which are the same in all these 4 existential motivations. There is always a basic reaction. When I have the feeling I cannot accept something, I cannot accept anything, I cannot support it, then avoidance or flight is the basic reaction. I have the feeling I cannot be here, so I have to go elsewhere. It doesn't import where. Central is only elsewhere. A paradoxical reaction which follows is the basic reaction. It does not lead to a good end. Or then an activism is paradoxically coming up, which means not flight, instead the contrary, attack. Confronting the situation like a fish which was brought into a narrow. It suddenly turns around and swims against those hands which drive it into the corner. This reaction is still alive in human beings. It's not fighting, it's attacking. It's when you are brought into the corner and you have no way to escape, then you attack. It is the case, for instance, in the compulsive reaction by washing hands against the bacteria, or running up and down in the room, or making jokes can also be a kind of attacking a situation. Or to demonstrate weakness, like crying, can also be an activism. You do something, you have no way to escape, then you do something. So I know this is just to give you an idea. I'm not able to explain everything in deep, because that would take at least 2 days to do that. But just to give the idea, if these 2 reactions are not sufficient, then aggression arises. And this is the type of aggression when I have the feeling I cannot support, I cannot stand, I cannot be. This type of aggression is a specific type of aggression. It is a destructive type of aggression. It is the type which want to destroy the other, to destroy which is attacking me or which is laying on me. And this type of aggression is called hate. It turns around the question to be or not to be, either you or me. Both of us, we cannot be. So you have to die, and if you don't die, I have the feeling I must die. That is the center of hate. And the most basic protective reflex is an archaic reflex. I don't know exactly how the term is in English. In German, we say Todstellreflex, death imitation reflex. It's a freezing, it's a being paralyzed. It's like animals do when they are in the utmost danger. We have that too. Here, for instance, it is you stop breathing. You have you get psychic and or somatic stiff. It's like a petrification, a benumbing. Which happens, for instance, in the shock. Shock is a kind of a freezing, for an instance, just to overcome, not to move. Hopefully, the situation will turn by itself. I cannot do, not even hate, I cannot be aggressive, nothing will help. In this situation, I stop breathing, and everyone knows situations where I stop breathing because I've got so much here I feel exposed to a too strong power which I cannot resist. Well, fixations of coping reactions lead to anxiety disorders. If somebody is dealing with similar situations always by flight, then he gets an anxiety disorder or even a panic disorder. Anxiety disorders are also personality disorders. Confrontation of the situation turns into an enduring, accepting. These are no longer reactions. These is an encompassing and dealing with the reality. What is enduring? What do we do when we do nothing else than endure, for instance, a toothache, a headache, the crying of the children, the perfume, her perfume, or his clearing his throat continuously? Enduring such simple things in a daily life costs something a lot of power. What do we do if we endure it? If we endure the crying of the children? I can't stand it any longer. I feel like pushed into a corner. Enduring means I'm just holding my place, stimming against the weight, against this load and burden, bearing it as long as I can. I stand it, I hold it. Enduring means acting as a person. I do it. I decide to do it. To endure this. Maybe I have the feeling I cannot do anything else. But if I'm weakening my personal position, then I'm falling into the coping reactions. And I try to fly, to avoid. If I cannot avoid, to attack the situation or even to become aggressive and so on. But if I decide, well, I want to go to stand that situation, I look how long I can endure this anxiety, this fear, this ache, then I am decided to throw myself into the situation and to hold my place. And can come up to the point where I'm getting the feeling I can't stand it any longer. Then the feeling is arising, well, now I'm in danger to die. But before I'm dying, the coping reactions come and help me to overcome the situation. Psychodynamic has its own wisdom. The wisdom of psychodynamics is to secure life. On the other hand, what is accepting? Enduring is the most basic way to cope with a situation on a personal level. A little bit more complex is already the way of accepting. What is the gesture of accepting? The bodily gesture of accepting is this. It means there is enough space for you and for me to be here. I can accept you. Your presence doesn't push me aside. These circumstances which come along with you. Allow me to be, so I can let you be, because I have the feeling that you let me be. I can be means, therefore, you can be, I can be, we both can be. You hear the word be. I can be. Accepting in the basic sense is letting something or someone be, not fighting him, her, or its existence. Take it as given. It is very difficult to accept for many realities, severe diseases, disasters, destroyed expectancies, hopes, etc. The feeling comes up, I cannot be under these circumstances, and have some coffee. How long do you think, would it be okay if we start again at in 20 minutes, 11 o'clock? So, thank you for listening. We have put some papers, a paper on resume on existential analysis. Just for, you can have it for free. Thank you. And Salvatore Medi was saying to me that I have to make that I should make something clear, that because in the United States or in America you are using the term coping for the working through the reality, the problem-solving action. I was using the word coping in combination with reaction, and there are two different types of copings. The coping as the problem-solving action, which is a personal action, which is the confrontation. This is this type of coping. Ahead of that, I was speaking about coping reactions, which are as reactions, not decided activities. It is a behavior deriving from psychodynamics. Therefore, it is called coping reactions. Not to confuse with coping as dealing with problems. And thank you for this information. Well, I'd like to continue. Of course, we have 1 hour left, and I must be a little bit quicker now because we have 3 more existential motivations, and we didn't yet finish the first one. We have to look at the prerequisites of that, what we need. What do we need for being able to endure and accept? It's so hard to accept realities sometimes and to endure them sometimes. We can ask ourselves, of course, what helped me once to overcome a situation, to endure it. There are 3 basic needs, 3 basic prerequisites, which we need to for being able to accept protection, space, and support. Protection. What is meant with protection? Protection, I get protection when I am accepted by somebody else. The acceptance of being accepted by my father, my mother, my family, my spouse, my friends, my teachers, is a strong protection. So we can ask ourselves, do I have a feeling within me of generally being accepted by others? Do I have that feeling? Or do I have the feeling that I have to fight for it? To fight for being accepted? Or is that something which normally comes along naturally in my life? Do I have this experience? You see, we are discovering different bases of our existence. If we have to fight for being accepted, we have another starting point than if we have the feeling of being accepted. For me is quite natural. I have made the experience in my life that almost everybody is accepting me. That's not something I have to look at. There's a rule. The more I feel accepted, the easier I can accept others or situations. The more I feel accepted, the more acceptance I have within myself, the easier I can accept another person, I can accept a situation. This gives me a lot of protection in my being in the world. Space. We need enough physical space to move. We need room. We need psychical space to breathe near our partner. In the work, breathing in the work. To have a free breathing before myself and my demands, which sometimes take me away my own breath. And we need a spiritual or noetic space to exchange and to come into a dialogue. We can ask ourselves, how much space do I generally have for me in my actual life? We can show it to ourselves. How much space do I have today to breathe? Do I have the feeling of having so much space, or is it narrow? Do I have not enough space for a deep and good breathing? We need spaces to live in, a house. When I accept the house as my own, it becomes my home. When I accept the land I'm living in as my own, it's my homeland, where I belong to. We need space in time, which is rhythm. My space in movement and time, my own, to live in my own rhythm. A rhythm is giving me a wave of space, repeatingly space. And so on. You see, this also a big topic in existential philosophy and in psychotherapy. You have here the connection to the body therapy, the connection to the breathing, for instance, the relation to the body, and the body as the inner home I have, the most close home I'm living in. And we can ask ourselves, if I really occupy my room, my body, my physical room, my home, my homeland, if I really live in my apartment, sit on my chair, if I fill the room the chair is giving me, if I take my breath, support or hold, the third prerequisite, protection, space, support or hold. There is a big question. What is giving me support in my life? When I have support, how do I feel it bodily? When I have support, I feel it bodily in that way that I am holding up my upper body, that my vertebral column is strong. The physically felt hold and support is richtet mich auf. How do we say in English? Is up. It makes me upright. Yeah, it keeps me upright. And also psychically, having a support makes me upright. If I have no support, I'm coming in this in this way. Do I feel my body as support? Does it hold me? Can I really rely on my body? The body is the vital basis of support. Do I have a feeling of being held by a relationship, by somebody else who is standing at me, at my side? Do I have a feeling that there is support? If all these supports do not hold, now we are coming so deeply. We're just pointing at it. We cannot go through, but just have a look at it. If I lose all that, what is holding me, my relationship, my health, my job, if I would lose that, what would hold me? What would happen to me? What would I do? Am I whole at all in my death? Or do I fall into a nothingness? This is the deepest and last experience of being whole, the existential ground, Seinsgrund in German. We cannot know it, but having a feeling for it, a presentiment. Some forms of experienced and lived hold support. There are big topics also in philosophy and in existential philosophy and also in psychotherapy. The courage. Courage to be Medis center of hardiness. The courage means having enough strength to overcome an anxiety. That is courage. Courage comes from the Latin cor. Cor, C-O-R. En français, le cœur. The heart. Having enough heart, having enough strength to beat the situation, to overcome an anxiety, to be grown to an insecurity. That means courage, being grown, having enough support that I can stand it. The German word Mut is the same word as the English word mood, M-O-O-D. Courage is the German word for, the German word Mut is the German word for courage. You have, courage is a kind of mood. There, M-O-O-D, M-O-O-D, mood. Courage is a kind of mood and decision. I must say myself that I have enough courage to jump down from this rock, for instance. It's courage, in the courage I'm giving me free on the basis of a feeling. Trust. Trust is the decision to leave oneself to a holding structure, to overcome a perceived insecurity. I'm just pointing to it. These are two big topics to go them through all in this spare time we have. To deal a risk. And of course, trust is laid on a basic trust, as Erik Erikson was describing, and is laying on an even more fundamental trust than the basic trust, the fundamental trust. In existential analysis, we we make a distinction between the basic trust. Basic trust is in the relation to the first person's, normally the mother. Fundamental trust is a broader trust. It's the trust into the holding structure of the world, that the world itself is holding me, which is a broader concept. Basic trust is a special form of fundamental trust. Self-confidence is a trust in oneself. The behavioral talk about self-efficacy belongs to this point. Hope, loyalty. Hope means give up control and influence. The basic activity is when we cannot change any situation. Then we have hope. We have hope that the weather will be good today. We cannot change it, but we can hold up the value of a good weather for our intentions, and we hope, and so on. There is also included in hope the holding structure. If you lose hope, you fall into despair. Loyalty has also the holding structure within it. In loyalty, I trust that you are going with me, that you stand on me, on my side. Loyalty is something I can rely on it. I feel hold in loyalty. Truth, the same in truth. There is a holding structure in truth. Truth refers to being. True is what is really given, what is the case. Faith refers to a deep feeling of being whole. This is the deepest approach to the holding structure we can have at all. There are special activities, two special activities to bring in these prerequisites: cognition and perception. Perception, for working with people who have deficits in this first fundamental motivation, we don't look at feelings, nor on problems of identity. We work on perception. What is given? Beware of the facts. Realize, accept, realize, state as certain what is given and accepting it. And this is a circle, realizing, stating what is given challenges my acceptance. And if I can accept a given fact, then I can realize it again more. I can see it more. You have to accept things to realize them really what they are. But to realize them, you must have a hold. And so these are the system here is not a linear system, it is a circular system, a feeding back system. You know, you start in a point, but you are never at the end when you started here. You start and you come back on a higher level at the same point, and you are always working like in a spiral. Perception, just let us talk about what is the case. What do you see? If you have an anxious person, don't talk a long time about feelings. Look what is given, what can happen, what is the possibility, and what is the given. Look at the facts and look at the outcomes. The cognitive procedure is required in anxiety, and therefore cognitive psychotherapy is so effective in treating anxiety, because they don't look at biography along thing or feelings along thing. They are important for other indications, but not in the case of the first in the case of disorders in the first existential motivation. Cognition. Look at the laws and the possibilities. Well, let me come to the second existential motivation. We have now the raw material of existence, the world. But now we have to deal with the living factor, the fundamental condition of life, the ability, which is the ability of relating to life. What makes existence, a question is, or what I mean with that, what makes existence rewarding, valuable, worthy, warm, full of life? What makes my being here full of life? It can be secure, it can be in good conditions on the first layer of existence, the first existential motivation, but is it worth living? What brings life into my life? The basic question, therefore, is, I live. Do I really like to live? Again, you have this existential turnaround, this turning for 180 degrees. The fact is, now on this level, I am living. I have a body, a warm body. I have feelings. I have suffering. I have joy. I have lust. This is given. Maybe I don't want it. That's not the question. The question is, how are you dealing with it? What is your decision? Can you accept it or not? How do you relate to that fact? Do you go away? Do you turn away? Or do you confront this reality? Where does this question arise? The question, do I really like to live? In suffering, of course. Unhappiness, of course. Lack of valuable experiences. When one only works, for instance, and has not enough joy, fun, in loneliness, in chronic diseases, in pain. And why does it arise? Life is not automatically good to us, and is not always good to us. We are born, this is the first birth. But now we are asked, how is it for me being born and being here? Not as a cold, insensitive stone, but as a being with blood and flesh, with feelings like joy, happiness, but also sadness, pain, or dark feelings. This leads us to a decision for or against life, or a neutrality, a neutral attitude towards life. Many people live in a neutral attitude towards life, waiting how life is turning out to be. Not being sure, not wanting to intrigue oneself too deep, just waiting. If I'm young, happy and wealthy, then it's okay. If not, I'm not secure what I want to do. This is the second birth, the decision for life. If the impaired conditions press on me, I do not like to live. I do not want to relate or to turn to such a life. to mourn. The most basic form to live is to like. To like something. Being able to live means it. It's a realization of I live. If I do something I like to, I realize my being alive. The fact that I am alive, that I'm living, makes all variable, changeable. Living means things are going to change because I myself am changing. They are transitory. The negative consequences, what happens if I don't have the feeling that I can relate to something or to somebody, that I do not like to be in this situation? The feeling arises, I do not like to live this situation. I don't feel attracted nor driven. I'm not moved. I have no motivation, no power to do something. Again, a blockade of motivation. And depression arises. Depression is the typical feeling which comes along with a lack of life. In existential analysis, depression is not a lack of being aggressive, as in psychoanalysis. We understand it as a lack of life, a lack of relation to life, of lived relation to life. Of course, aggression can be a part of that, but in a deeper understanding, it's the relation to life which is disturbed. Any full motivation needs more than the mere I can. It needs also an I like. If I have not the like, if I do not have the I like, defense mechanisms, coping reactions again, are arising. The basic reaction is regression. We retreat. If I do not like to be here, I go back into my bed, pull the cover over my head, hold the warmth, the rest of the warmth in the world. This is like a psychic hibernation. It's a retracting into one's snail shell. The paradoxical reaction and activism is to achieve, perform, dispatch, get finished with, clear of, also overprotective behavior, or devaluation. There are many forms. I'm just pointing to some of them. The aggression, the typical aggression here, is not a destructive one. It is the fury. It is a type of aggression which seeks to shake the relation. It's an awakening type of aggression. It's the type of saying to the other one when I get into a fury, you bad guy, if you continue that way, you are gonna lose me. I don't want to destroy you. It's not the question of being or not being. It's the question of having relation or not to that father who doesn't answer myself, or to that partner, or to that friend. I get into fury to save relationship. You see, aggression is not always is not the like. It depends on the existential theme which is dealing with. I have not heard of any theory of aggression which makes these kind of distinctions. Not even in Kernberg. Kernberg has some similarities, but it doesn't go so far. Fury is sometimes loud. It can be a short-lived protest. The freezing, the most basic reflex or death-imitating reflex is resignation. Resignation is halfway overcome by the situation, but halfway, on the other hand, I'm still holding the situation. I'm within the situation. I'm not yet dead. I'm hoping to overcome in resignation. Resignation is not a fully giving up, but a halfway giving up. Any fixation of coping reactions leads again to, in this case, to different forms of depression and also to depressive personality disorder. The coping or the confrontation, the typical confrontation of unliked situations, the encompassing and dealing with this type of reality is mourning. Mourning is, what is mourning? What do we do when we are mourning? There are phases. It is not the theme here. But the central of mourning is that we hold relationship. We let us being touched by what happened. And then a feeling, we let the feelings flow in mourning. It is important. And out of the motionless death, after having lost somebody, for instance, this motionless death within oneself arises a crying. Tears come up. And what do they mean? What do tears mean? They are a sign of life. They say to me, in yourself, life goes on. It continues. It's awakening again within me. It's a wonder. Tears in mourning are the wonder of life. It's so important to have tears when we are mourning. Mourning means turning to a disliked situation, turning to a loss, not showing away, not having reactions, holding the relation to the dead person, to the lost situation, to the lost value, whatever it is. Turning to, the gesture is really to turn around my body, my physical being, my spiritual being, my psychic being, and looking at that what happened, and holding the situation.